Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Positivity Effect: Simple CBT Skills to Transform Anxiety and Negativity into Optimism and Hope, by Dan Tomasulo Phd. Foreword by Lisa Miller, Phd. Narrated by Brion. Publisher's Note: in this audio edition you will hear references to images present in the print and ebook formats of the book. Foreword. What if you were given a high throne from which you could issue much of your lot in life? Your scepter could point away from a life full of struggles with negativity, to instead oversee a world replete with gifts of positivity. You could issue forth a personal agenda of happiness, joy, and hope. Or, from this point of impact, you might toss your life into suffering, emotional pain, and nihilism. The Wisdom of the Positivity Effect by Dr. Dan Tomasulo, a leader in the field of positive psychology, puts you in this seat. You may have yet to enter this chamber within your own inner life, but it is waiting for you, the empty chair saved only for you. Dr. Tomasulo gives you a map to it, the key, and a guide to the range of decisions that you might make looking out from your seat of personal power. While no human being has total control of outward events, each of us is built with the internal point of awareness to exercise choice in how we perceive, focus, interpret, and ultimately act in response to these outward events. Dr. Tomasulo even goes on to show that in time, our awareness can budge some of the so-called outer events, particularly when it comes to the quality of our relationships, the use of our innate talents, and the forces of our persistence and effectiveness in the world. Dr. Dan Tomasulo is a teacher extraordinaire. He has risen to be the academic director of Spirituality Mind-Body Graduate Studies at Teachers College, Columbia University. Here, I have seen him live action teach hundreds, perhaps now thousands, of Columbia University students over the past 10 years. As a skillful guide, Dr. Tomasulo will also introduce you to your own inner seat of awareness. From up there, you are empowered to exercise a great measure of choice over your take on things or cognitive appraisal, your emotional life or mental embrace, and with practice, to develop a new MO for living. If you say yes to trying out these inner practices, you are handed a great deal of liberation. Having positivity inside your mind means that no longer are you tightly emotionally tethered to life's unwanted, shocking, immediately painful outward events. You are free to live the life you want to live. Only you can determine your level of inner positivity. The choice is readily detected by everyone who surrounds you, your work colleagues, life partner and children, and even the fellow in the next seat on the train. We can raise high a bright torch in dark times of total night, or we can slump toward the ground with dissatisfaction on a sunny day. How do you want to live? Knowledge is power. Dr. Tomasulo empowers you by handing you some of the best insights in the field of positive psychology. He writes in an encouraging, clear, accessible voice on some of the most important research findings in psychology when it comes to choosing your emotional lot in life. He builds mnemonics to help you remember your way to a seat of positivity. He chronicles an actual human life who through inner choice flourished after confronting catastrophic evil. Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl. He then shares peer-reviewed studies revealing our shared human ability to make life-affirming choices in times of collective trauma, such as 9/11. The possibility to face tremendous adversity and make ourselves more rather than less, more caring, more connected, and more hopeful, is shown through the established body of research on post-traumatic growth. Dr. Tomasulo wants you to live your best life, a life driven by the positivity effect. The vision and execution of your first-rate life are within your control if you look from the right vantage point. Such a life is found not merely in the events that come your way, but in your choice of whether or not to sit upon your own inner throne, hold court with your key people and events, good and bad, and ultimately choose a reign of joy. Lisa Miller, Phd., Professor and Founder, Spirituality Mind-Body Institute, Columbia University Teachers College, and author of The Awakened Brain, and the New York Times bestseller, The Spiritual Child. Introduction. Find your hero within. A hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. Christopher Reeve. Do you wake up with your to-do list breathing down your neck? I used to. The list of things I needed to do, hadn't gotten done, or had forgotten about altogether, seemed to be waiting there for me every morning. Each day brought new issues to deal with, and the list of what needed to get done or redone seemed to grow. The little things were building up, and so were the stress and anxiety. I found more distractions. It became harder to focus and harder to complete tasks. It was hard to find even a little space to breathe, with too many deadlines, too little sleep, and too much caffeine. If your own stress and anxiety have become a daily battle, you are not alone. Worldwide, anxiety is crippling and is the leading cause of limiting a healthy life. In the United States alone, more than 40 million people over 18 have some type of anxiety disorder. Countless more have chronic stress and anxiety that may not be diagnosable but are still difficult. Stress and anxiety are gateways that lead to depression and physical conditions. If you have significant anxiety in your life, you are 5 times more likely to have medical issues that need a doctor's attention. What's more, people with anxiety disorders are 6 times more likely to be hospitalized for psychiatric disorders. Anxiety is our greatest obstacle to well-being. Yet, there is hope, even empowerment, resilience, and optimism in this book. Millions of us are on edge, worried, and anxious, and the need for relief is burgeoning. While most of us manage to get through the day, the week, and the crisis at hand, something is always bubbling below the surface, ready to hijack our thinking. Yet only about a third of the people with significant stress and anxiety in their life go for treatment. Why is it that anxiety is both widespread and undertreated? People with anxiety are more likely to go to a doctor, a general practitioner, internist, or another specialty than to a psychiatrist or psychologist. They are looking to make the anxiety vanish. On one level, this is good news, because they are looking to treat the condition. At another level, this may also be part of the problem, because they do not necessarily seek the help of a mental health professional. If the root of the anxiety goes untreated, it can become more intrusive. The bodily symptoms that come from anxiety include heart palpitations, muscle aches and tension, shaking, sweating, shortness of breath, and insomnia. They can also include fatigue, difficulty concentrating, chest pain, jaw pain, rashes, stomach problems, and even persistent hiccups and tinnitus, ringing in your ears. These symptoms tend to drive us to the medical doctor, a person trained to alleviate the physical signs, usually with medicine, but not trained to treat the causes of the mental or psychological aspects of anxiety. So many people who go for treatment are going for the symptoms of the anxiety, not for the reasons behind it. But we know that when something is not treated at the core level, it is likely to return. This is particularly true with anxiety and depression. People tend to take the medicine their general physician prescribes, usually an antidepressant, which can also alleviate anxiety symptoms for a while. It works a bit, but then they stop and the symptoms return. Even more concerning, research shows that nearly 70% of these patients never actually met the criteria for clinical depression, and nearly 40% were being treated for anxiety symptoms when they didn't meet the criteria for an anxiety disorder. There are a number of reasons this approach isn't working. Research on this has been thorough. Irving Kirsch of Harvard Medical School examined data from a number of independent studies to determine the overall trends when it comes to the effectiveness of antidepressant medications. Dr. Kirsch's research shows that the medicines used to treat depression and anxiety may help when they are first taken, yet they do not prevent recurrence of symptoms. Essentially, science has clearly shown that if people feel better and stop taking the medication, the same symptoms return. In other words, the treatment works only if you keep taking it. Taking medicine to reduce your anxiety doesn't help to heal or prevent it. Instead, It helps you rely on the drug with all of its side effects to keep anxiety in check. It is important to note that I am not saying the medication can't be helpful. It is, but it has long been known that the major anti-anxiety medications, benzodiazepines, help to reduce anxiety but lead to dependence, toxicity, and abuse. They work to reduce the anxiety temporarily, but never get at the cause. This can be described as treatment success with sustainability failure. When asked whether the medicine is effective, my answer is yes and no. Yes during the treatment phase. No when it comes to healing the cause. If any aspect of stress and anxiety has generated fear, uncertainty, or ambivalence in you, you may not have sought help in the first place. Whether you have only gotten treatment relief, perhaps from an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication, or have been unwilling to try any treatment at all, I understand you may be hesitant. You may not be. You may be ready to try something new. But if hesitant is how you are feeling, it is understandable. You may feel ashamed of not having control of your feelings, be afraid of being labeled with a disorder, lack belief in the effectiveness of any treatment, fear side effects of the medicine, be concerned about addiction or dependence on the medicine, or simply need to learn more about how treatment works. Although anxiety is extremely common, you may be among those who fear a stigma associated with mental illness or the consequences of a diagnosis. You might assume you cannot afford treatment, think you can handle it by yourself, not know where to go for treatment, or even believe you'd be forced to take medicine. With all these considerations, it's not surprising that many people do not go for treatment at all. As a result, they may struggle with hopelessness or feel that they have no sense of agency around their future. This feeling may be keeping them stuck, unproductive, and trapped in a downward spiral of negativity. Let's examine this downward spiral more closely before we explore the way out. The science of negativity. Science knows a lot about how we worry. A loop in our brain begins with a negative thought, followed by not seeing a way to positively impact the future. The concern about the future creates greater anxiety or worry, which then causes feelings of hopelessness, generating more negative thoughts. The Tony Award-winning musical A Strange Loop portrays this powerfully. The main character, Usher, interacts with a cast of his own negative thoughts as he considers his future. As Usher tries to get out of this loop, his personified negative thoughts, "You don't know what you are doing. You can't do this. Who do you think you are?" show up with more frequency and intensity. Negative thinking seems relentless. This is because negativity comes from an invisible fountain of anxiety and worry. Yes, the demands of our outside daily life press on us in ways that make our inner life difficult. But what science has learned is that the stressors themselves don't influence us as much as the repetitive negative thoughts that follow. As Thoreau reminds us, it's not what we look at that matters, it's what we see. Do any of these negative thinking traps sound familiar? I'm not good enough. I know I'll mess up. I'll never be able to manage my anxiety. I'm too old. I'm not lucky. I should just give up. Anything less than perfect is a failure. I messed up. Now everything is ruined. I'll never become what I want to be. I'm not strong enough. I'm too young. I should be better than I am. I can't do anything about it. Others think I'm stupid. They don't like me. Nobody cares. Nobody loves me. I always make mistakes. I should never make mistakes. I'm stupid. I'm a loser. I'll faint. I'll go crazy. I'll freak out and no one will help. I'll make a fool of myself and be embarrassed. I can't win. It's too late. How could I do that? I'm not smart enough. No matter what I do, things won't change. What's wrong with me? I may as well die. I can't control my feelings. I'm a failure. I can't do this. Notice which ones echo in your mind, and especially the ones that are repetitive. In Chapter 2, we'll target these first because negative thoughts are the biggest roadblocks to well-being. The relentless inner world of repetitive negative thoughts is like a whirlpool. It keeps you stuck in one place, all the while pulling you down. When this happens for a long enough time, your inner frustration can turn outward toward others. I can't believe they're like that. What is wrong with them? They should have done that. That's not right. What are they doing? I'll have to do it by myself. In the end, we criticize others, ourselves, or both. The cycle feeds on itself without much of a pause. We have survived as a species because we've learned how to worry. We have a proclivity toward worrisome thoughts that scientists call a negativity bias. Humans are drawn to worry about what might hurt us in some way. Over time, we have given more and more emphasis to worry, and positive emotions have become little more than frivolities. We don't linger on them. Typically, after experiencing joy or a sense of connection with others, we go right back to worrying about the next thing on our list. The result is that the negativity walls can close in as a trap of anxiety ensnares us. This is more than a vicious cycle. It's the trap that becomes our life. This book can help free you. Here's how. The choice: true freedom or seductive trap. In their effort to help you, most medicines, psychotherapies, and coping techniques have targeted the reduction of stress and anxiety symptoms. Therapists and physicians try to minimize these problems, but is trying to minimize their effects the only way to alleviate your suffering? The science and practice of coping are focused on alleviating suffering by reducing the symptoms. Most therapists and physicians have been trained in the science and practice of coping, working to reduce symptoms. Drug companies are in line with this approach, which says if we treat the symptom and lessen its effect, the patient is cured. In fact, if you look at the history of medicine and psychology, the research and practice approach has focused almost exclusively on symptom reduction, correction, and recovery. Further, a lot of effort has been put into combining the best of what medicine has to offer with the best of what psychotherapy has to offer. The thought is, if we combine the efforts to reduce symptoms, we'll get better results. This is what most mental health professionals recommend and is supported by the research. Toward this end, one of the leading medical journals recommends using antidepressants and cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, to treat stress and anxiety. They make this recommendation because both medication and CBT work to lessen the symptoms. Many researchers consider CBT the best treatment for anxiety and depression. Using meta-analysis studies, large-scale studies that look at many other studies on the same issue, about 48% of adults achieve some remission, discontinuation of symptoms, and up to 45% of youth under 18 get good results. But CBT has the same relapse problem as medication. Studies show that CBT is also effective for many during the treatment phase, but once the treatment stops, more than half will relapse within the following year. 4 out of 5 within the first 6 months. When professionals combine the two methods, antidepressants and CBT, the results don't get better. When measured by relapse, what happens after treatment rather than reduction during treatment, these joint interventions still do not work well enough. The average success rate of the treatment phase, what really worked, still hovers around only 50%, and the relapse rate is even lower. If each of the methods alone is only partially effective, and together they don't improve the permanent situation, what can be done? Alleviating suffering is certainly a noble goal, but focusing only on symptom reduction doesn't work very well, because symptoms come back once treatment is over. Over time, simply continuing the treatment, if it is medicine, can create problems of side effects, dependency, ineffectiveness, and potential addiction. Psychological interventions, when continually used to reduce the symptoms, also become ineffective, if they were ever effective at all. Something new is needed, a different approach, a different measure of well-being. It is not enough to have a treatment take away the pain for some people for a short period of time, only to have them relapse. We need something more sustainable that offers more hope and faith, and focuses on the vitality that comes with fully healing. The major meta-analysis, those large-scale studies agree that to help people fully heal their problems at the root, we need better treatment interventions that lessen relapse. More effective treatment interventions require a different way of thinking about the problem. So let's apply a different lens to anxiety. The science of thriving, flourishing, and well-being. In the last 20 years, there has been a shift in psychology away from looking at the importance of alleviating suffering. Instead, many are now looking for ways to increase well-being. This new emphasis is under the general umbrella of positive psychology, and the specifics of how it is applied are referred to as positive psychotherapy. This approach can empower you to make changes by helping you experience more positive emotions, and at the same time, teaching you to reduce negative emotions. Studies around the world show over and over again that increasing well-being may be the most effective way to reduce negativity. This focus on increasing your positive emotions while using your strengths is emerging as the most successful and efficient tool to reduce experiences of stress, worry, and anxiety. This is a radically different approach to well-being. Symptom reduction is only half the job. Adding specific interventions to improve positivity is the other half. Research has shown that decreasing negativity without simultaneously increasing positivity is a losing battle. This is because negative and positive thoughts are typically unbalanced when we are under stress and worried. Imagine that negative thoughts are like pebbles and positive thoughts are like feathers. The question is, can the feathers ever balance out the scale? Can they tip it in the direction of positivity? The short answer is yes, but you need a lot of feathers. Medicine and traditional therapy approaches knock the negative thoughts off the seesaw and keep the pebbles from piling on, but they don't add more feathers. As a result, while you might come back into balance, even a grain of sand can tilt the scale so that negative emotions and anxiety dominate once again. You may relapse because there isn't anything positive being added to the feather's side. You need to add more positive emotions by using your strengths. In this way, positive psychology can offer the other half of the equation. The approach suggested in this book is designed to work in tandem with medical and traditional therapeutic approaches. We want to add the findings of positive psychology to the toolbox, not try to replace other tools. When a pebble gets tossed on your scale, it is essential to become more empowered to remove it, and to learn how to add more positivity at the same time. This leads to resilience, meaning we successfully adapt to a difficult or challenging life experience and begin, as leading resilience researcher Dr. George Bonanno says, a stable trajectory of healthy functioning. This approach is very dynamic because as you are working to keep the pebbles from accumulating, you are also looking for and learning how to gather more feathers. Once you know how to balance the scale by removing negative thoughts, you keep them at bay by adding more positivity. The science and tools of CBT can now be amplified, extended, and enhanced by tapping into the research on activating our strengths and positive emotions. In a private communication before he passed, Aaron Tim Beck, the founder of CBT, expressed gratitude to Dr. Martin Seligman, founder of positive psychology, for adding positive emotions into the future path of research for CBT. The science of what we know how to do is always better informed when a creatively different approach is also applied. In this case, the fresh approach is to cultivate the causes of well-being. Types of well-being. Science has learned that your well-being can have a permanent effect on your physical and mental health. In life, there are 4 types of capital that contribute to well-being: financial, what you have; human, what you know; social, who you know; and psychological, who you are. What you have relates to the material resources you have at your disposal, like money and tangible assets or material goods. What you know could be your knowledge, skills, training, ideas, or education. Who you know through social capital refers to your relationships, friends, and network of connections. Who you are is psychological capital, which is what the positivity effect is all about. To shift well-being in a positive direction, there are 4 different emotional skills needed. Collectively, these 4 resources are known as psychological capital, or PsyCap, which consists of H. Hope, choosing to believe you are in control of the future, to act with agency. E. Empowerment, capitalizing on past successes to build confidence. R. Resilience, cultivating a flexible mindset in the present to build readiness and courage. O. Optimism, converting how you explain the past and expect the future to gain perspective and certainty. These skills are sometimes referred to collectively as HERO. Each of them relies on the essential skill of self-regulation. Note that I have chosen to use the word empowerment rather than the original E proposed in HERO, self-efficiency, a belief in one's capacity to influence a situation, typically one's sense of confidence. Because empowerment is considered a predictor of self-efficacy, it is better suited to this book. This book is about giving you access to your inner hero. You will learn specific ways to cultivate hope, facilitate empowerment, develop resiliency, and promote optimism. We all have these resources, but they are often untapped because they have not been given the emotional nutrients needed to thrive. The key to unlocking the power of psychological capital is learning self-regulation, which means regulating your perception. Perception can directly change your emotions and your experience into something more positive. Here's what to expect along the way. How you can experience the positivity effect. As you listen to this book, you will learn about the new science surrounding HERO. You'll be invited to engage with practices to learn to become more hopeful, empowered, resilient, and optimistic. Through evidence-based and evidence-informed interventions, you will be able to keep pebbles from accumulating in life and add more feathers. Chapter 1 teaches you how to see differently. In order to eventually change what you think and feel, you have to first change what you are looking at and what you see. A brief assessment will help you understand how you currently view positivity and negativity in your life. You'll also recognize the patterns of seeing that have become habitual. An exercise is introduced to help you learn how to break these habits and start seeing and responding to the world afresh. Chapter 2 reveals the new science of hope, which has the power to change our interpretations. In this chapter, the emphasis is on understanding the difference between hope, faith, and optimism, and appreciating the unique opportunity of hope. Hope is the only positive emotion that requires negativity or uncertainty to be activated. The core hope skill is learning to shift your perception away from assessing something as negative so that you can attend to different aspects of the event or situation. This allows you to interpret it anew and see it in a different, more hopeful way. Chapter 3 is a crash course on our brain, how it works like a search engine on a computer, and how empowered people have learned how to hack it. This chapter dives into the research and practice of how accessing more positive emotions helps you plan better for the future, how self-care is the best way to begin and maintain an upward spiral, and how all of this leads to confidence. Chapter 4 emphasizes how responding resiliently to the unexpected is important in determining outcomes. Just like the GPS in your car, when life detours you, the route toward your destination may require a reappraisal. Chapter 4 teaches how to respond effectively to a difficult situation by developing a flexible mindset and learning how to take a truly mindful pause, a technique developed by Dr. Ryan Nemec. Chapter 5 reveals the dramatic outcome of optimism, believing something good can happen. For better or worse, the degree to which we expect and believe that something will occur greatly influences our experiences and outcomes. You will learn how to borrow positive emotions from your future by learning to think about your best possible self. You'll also learn to develop an optimistic mindset. Chapter 6 gives you ways and reasons for acting differently in the world. By understanding 3 ways, you can sustainably enable your future. The first is through learning more deeply about your ability.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?